Hi there. Thank you for hanging with me for a little while today to discover how NLP will set you free. Got a question for you. Have you ever wondered if you really have what it takes to help your clients solve their problem? Have you ever been concerned that you'll run out of ideas or suggestions? Or what if you make the wrong suggestion? That's a lot of responsibility to pile on your shoulders, is it not? Take a breath. Relax and imagine if all of that responsibility were lifted from your shoulders so that you could actually be present with your clients, hold the space, and facilitate change. Wouldn't that be a way to go? Well, NLP is the key to working with human behavior and communication. And I want to share with you two very important, very easy, quick to learn techniques that you will be able to use immediately to help facilitate a change in your clients for good. NLP is the key to working with human behavior and communication. When I ask people, what is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, I get a variety of responses. Sometimes they'll say, oh, it's a set of techniques. And boy, indeed, NLP is a set of techniques. You've got the fast phobia cure and the swish technique and the 6-step reframe and many others. Quick, speedy, reliable change techniques that really work. And some people say, NLP is all about linguistics. And yes, it's all about linguistics. And probably that's what drew me to NLP in the first place, if you want to know the truth. Before I was a hypnotist, I became a full-time hypnotist in 2005. But before that, I had a 30-year career in radio. I was a personality on Chicago radio. And all I had to entertain and inform were words. Well, words and nuance and tone and pacing and delivery. But words were what I used for communication. So it makes perfect sense that NLP made so much sense to me that I wrote the book, Magic Words and Language Patterns, the hypnotist's essential guide to crafting irresistible suggestions. And yes, it works. This is the easy approach to using language patterns and magic words to help facilitate change with your clients. NLP, though, is a vast storehouse of information, more than just the language patterns, more than just techniques. NLP is rapport building so that you establish the hypnotic relationship, the dance that occurs between you and your client. NLP is rapport building and representational systems, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory, lead systems that help your client really take in the message that you were communicating to them. NLP is reframing and modeling. John Grinder and Richard Bandler, the real inventors of NLP, of course, there were a host of other people involved. There was Robert Dilts, and there were the Andreases, Connie Ray and Steve, and then there were other people involved, a great number of people involved in the development of NLP. But when Richard Bandler and John Grinder really started out on this endeavor, they had some things in mind about human behavior. And it was really important for them to discover what created the behaviors that humans were used to, the behaviors that humans practiced, and how to really dig down into that. They did modeling. They observed Fritz Perls and Virginia Satir and Milton Erickson. And they had the belief that if they could discover how they do it, what they said and what they did, that could be replicated. NLP is about modeling and replication. Today, what I really want to share with you is not the vast majority of NLP. I mean, that's a whole field of study that I highly encourage you to delve into. But today, what I want to offer you are two very specific techniques. One that will free you up to relax and practice human communication and interaction. And the other, an outcome intervention that will allow you to really point your clients into the direction of a solution mindset. Imagine in this short amount of time, you develop an understanding of what it takes to make the methods look like magic. It's pretty incredible. So we're going to start with the NLP presuppositions because that's what really set me free. Before there was NLP, John Grinder and Richard Bandler had a set of presuppositions, beliefs that they held. Now, they were academics. They were academics at university on the West Coast. And one was a linguist and one was a sociologist, and they were into modeling and human behavior and communication. And they had a set of presuppositions about human nature. And they went about proving how to deal, using those presuppositions, with facilitating change. So the first thing we want to look at are the presuppositions. I'd like to now share with you the handout that I provided for the class. If you don't have this handout, if you're watching this someplace else, I will be happy to send you the handout. All you have to do is email Karen@KarenHand.com. But let's have a look at that handout real quick. There are 10 presuppositions. Now, honestly with you, there are many more than 10 presuppositions, but I have a radio background. I like top 10 lists. I like countdown lists. So I took the presuppositions that really made an impact on my life, that really freed up my practice and made me a better change worker. I boiled those down into 10 steps for ease of use. And these 10 will really give you a look at what you're dealing with when the clients walk into your door. So let's look at them. Top 10 reality reminder. If you want a copy of this, just ask for the top 10 reality reminder and I'll send it to you. Number 1, people don't need to be fixed. Everyone is working perfectly. I'll explain all this in a moment. Number 2, we're responsible for creating our own experience. Number 3, behind every behavior is a positive intent, and every behavior has a positive intent in some context. 4, people make the best choice available to them at all times. As soon as they get a better choice, they'll make that choice instead. 5, people have all of the resources they need. I get some argument about that once in a while, but I'll show you what I mean with that in a moment. 6, anything can be accomplished if it's put down in small enough chunks. 7, the map is not the territory. You'll hear that a lot in NLP circles, and I'll explain it. 8, we are always communicating. We are always communicating. And the meaning of the communication is in the response that you get. More about that coming up. Number 9, the one with the most flexibility always wins. Realize if something's not working, do something else. Be flexible. And 10, this is probably my favorite. There is no failure, only feedback. That's an important one. And we'll get to all of these in more detail. Let's look at them one by one. Now, this top 10 list is not a complete list of NLP presuppositions. You can certainly Google NLP presuppositions and get a whole variety of responses to this. What I have boiled down for you are the things that really made an impact on me, and I think it's the simplest approach to help you work more effectively with your clients. So let's take them one by one. Number 1, people don't need to be fixed. Everybody is working perfectly. Let me show you what I mean by that. You get a client who walks in, he's 300 pounds and he eats pizza and fast food all the time. Well, guess what? His body is working perfectly for someone who eats pizza, doesn't exercise, and has fast food all the time. So we want to discover how he's running that particular problem. He doesn't need to be fixed. He's working perfectly according to the behaviors he's running at the moment, the programs that are running in the background of all of his thinking, in the filtering of everything that he does. So as we sit down and discuss how he's running his problem, I don't think he needs to be fixed. He's running just fine. So how are you doing that problem? How are you running the problem? In asking that question, he'll tell me things like, well, I never even realize I'm hungry until I'm just starving. And then I'm running late and I have to run down to the convenience store in the office and grab a couple of pieces of pizza and run up and go right back to work. Well, his body's working perfectly for a body that is treated in that way. And to help him, I could say, stop eating that way. I mean, that's good advice, but it's not going to create a change. So we have to look a little deeper and find out what he can do to change the circumstances. We might have to work on pre-planning. We might have to work on other ways that he has something provided for himself when that hunger strikes. We may even discover what those hunger signals are, or we could set an alarm for every time he needs to fuel his body, sort of like the gas gauge on the car, so he doesn't run on empty. There are a variety of things that we can do. What we know is how he's running the problem right now isn't working for him. It's working perfectly for the results he's getting, but it's not working the way he wants to be. So we change things along the way to give him a better avenue to the desires that he wants. And number two, we are responsible for our own experience. You know, our clients come into us with their own problem. They created the experience of their problem. Not that that's a horrible thing, not that they did it on purpose, but they created their problem. They came in with it. They were responsible for creating their own experience of the problem. We want to know how they're creating the problem, how they're running that problem. Even if you do regression work with a client and you take them back to an initial sensitizing event and they see that the imprint was there and somebody put that imprint on them, this is no time to blame the person who put the imprint on them. We might want to do some forgiveness or some work around that, but it is a time to help the client discover how they set up a strategy to deal with that, how they set up the strategy to make this pattern occur, and what they were getting out of it, what benefit they were getting out of it. Clients are responsible for their own experience. I've heard hypnotists say, I'm going to drop them into trance. Oh, once I dropped them into trance, you know what? We don't drop people into trance. When you look at a stage show, you see the stage hypnotist lording their authority over clients, and that's for entertainment. That's working with a bunch of compliant folks who also want to entertain. In our office, we're not lording over our clients. Although with a caveat, let me say, there are indeed some clients who just need to be told what to do. I had a man who came in for weight loss, the easiest client I've ever worked with, because he did everything I told him to do. When I told him to drink twice his body weight in water every day, he did it. When I told him to focus on protein, he did it. He did everything he was told to do. He was a good rule follower, and so we just used some rules, and he lost his weight. But not all clients are rule followers. Some clients need to discover it for themselves. And as I said, we're all creating our own experience. So if clients go into trance, when they go into trance, they are volunteering, they are creating that experience. We're all in a trance right now. I'm in a teaching trance. You're in the student trance. We're already in a trance state. Our clients come into us in a problem state. Our job is help them move that to a solution state so they'll have better results, the results that they want. So we want to help them create a better experience, but we can't do it for them. They have to do it. In fact, only they can create their own experience. Now, number three, behind every behavior is a positive intent. Every behavior is useful in some context. I worked recently with a man who has an office in downtown Chicago. You see all the big buildings, right? And his office was right amongst the big buildings in the Loop in Chicago. He came to me with a fear of walking downtown amongst the big buildings. He had actually several fears. Two of them were walking downtown amongst the big buildings. If he stepped off his train stop and there wasn't a cab right there, he would freeze in place and not know how to get to his office 10 blocks away. By the time we finished, he was easily walking to his office. He also had problems driving on the expressway. So regression was warranted here because, I don't think regression is warranted in every case, but in this case it certainly was, because the client told me something very important. The client told me, I know exactly when this started. I was in second grade. I was sent out into the hallway, and I looked down that long, dark hallway, and I was terrified. And I asked him, how did you deal with that? What was your solution? And he said, I got sick. I went to the nurse's office, and I went home, and I stayed home for 3 days. I didn't go back there because I was afraid of the hallway. And I said, well, how'd that work out for you? And he said, well, eventually you have to go back to class. And so I had to go back. And he said, every time I was in that hallway, I was terrified. Well, at that point, as a 7-year-old in second grade, he set up a strategy. I'll just stay away from the hallway and never face that again. Thus, he stayed home for 3 days until he was forced to go back to school. Well, he went back to school and, he avoided the hallway as best he could. But interestingly enough, along the way through life, that imprint kept getting tweaked, kept getting prodded, kept rearing its ugly head. And it eventually generalized. In NLP, you learn that the way we process information is to delete, distort, and generalize. He generalized that over the course of his lifetime to things that were long and narrow. He had a problem on downtown Chicago streets that were bordered by tall buildings, long and narrow, and that initial fear crept back up. On highways, it was the same thing, long and narrow, and he couldn't see the end in sight. So we discovered how he was running the problem, what the problem was doing for him, because it had a benefit in some context when he was in second grade, and we discovered ways to help him neutralize that, to find new anchor points, and actually now he walks downtown quite freely. His behavior had a positive intent in second grade. It no longer served him as a 32-year-old high-powered businessman, and he had to find ways to get around it. He ultimately asked for help and got there. Number 4, people make the best choice available to them, and if they have a better choice, they'll choose the better choice. Let's say it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you are starving. You haven't eaten anything all day. You forgot breakfast. The only thing in the office is the Starbucks downstairs. You run down to the Starbucks, you grab your coffee, and you look at their sandwich offerings, and cake, cookies. Okay, well, there's some kind of sandwich there with turkey. I'll take that. People make the best choice available to them at the time, not just in Starbucks, but in life. I'll make the best choice I can make. A parent who is terrified that their child might get hurt in life might see that the best choice for them is to keep their child cloistered in the house, never let them go outside, make them fear the world, and that will keep them safe. Well, that's the best choice, but it's not the best solution. So once the parent realizes there is a better solution to keeping their child safe, maybe through education, maybe through experience, maybe to teach them to look both ways before crossing the street, preparing them for the real world might be a better choice. And as soon as they understand that better choice, they will utilize that better choice. People always make the best choice that's available to them at the time. 5, people have all the resources they need. That's right. They might not be tapping into them in the moment, but they have all the resources they need. Let's say that you have a client who comes in and is looking for confidence. I had a lady who got a new job and she had to speak in front of her fellow board members at this new job. And it was nerve-wracking to her, and she needed confidence so she could speak in front of them. I knew that she had resources of confidence because she knew what confidence was. So that indicated to me that she either had the internal resource or she had seen someone with that resource. We have 2 avenues to help affect a change here. First, we went looking for her inner resources. What resources do you have? When have you been confident? Well, she talked a lot about being in elementary school and junior high and jumping horses. She was a competitive horse jumper and did very well. And she told me, she went right, as she was telling me the story, went right into the trance of telling me how confident she was. And she and her horse practiced. They were in rapport with each other. They could feel each other's body movement, and she could feel how he was operating with her legs wrapped around the horse. And he could feel what she wanted on the reins. They practiced and they worked together and they could read each other and they were a team. And she knew that all of that practice paid off. It was in muscle memory and they were really doing the job together. And every time they competed, she didn't have to think about the competition. She just thought about, we have it in muscle memory. We are just doing it. Well, that gave us a great clue on how to make her more confident in making a speech. Prepare ahead of time. Borrow those resources that made her so confident as she competed in her equestrian events. Practice. Put it in muscle memory. And as she practiced her speeches, rather than just think about it, she would write them, she would practice them, she would get them in muscle memory. She discovered that when she went up to speak, she didn't have to worry about that. She knew all of that. She could just enjoy the experience. And she became quite fond of talking to people, making speeches, and enjoying the feedback that she got back from them, which felt a lot like the applause she gave after a jump. Now, some people won't be able to, they'll have the resources, but they won't be able to locate a resource if they're still stuck in the problem state. That means more dissociation is necessary, more dissociating from the problem and getting into the solution. So we also might look at anybody else who has what they want, because modeling is another great way to make a change. If somebody wants to lose weight, as an example, they might talk about having a friend who is just naturally thin. And every time she goes to lunch with her, the friend makes certain choices and eats in a certain way and leaves food on her plate. Well, we might model that behavior. We might look at it through a deep trance association, or even just watching her model her friend. And if she replicates her friend's actions, she's likely to get the same kind of success her friend gets. Smaller amounts, pushing it away when she's full. We might have to get her in touch with her fullness responses, but she can also borrow benefits from a model that she's looking at. So people have the resources they need. They couldn't ask for something if they didn't have an idea of how that might help them. So either they've got it inside or they can model it from the outside and affect a change. Number 6, anything can be accomplished if it's chunked down into small enough chunks. As an example, I had a client who came in and wanted to exercise more. She needed exercise motivation. So the first thing I wanted to know was, what is her definition of exercise? Her definition of exercise happened to be sweating, working real hard, doing it for a full hour until your muscles burn. Damn, I would hate exercise too, if that's the way I saw it was going to be, and if I saw that every time I had to go out. So that was a limiting belief. If I don't do all of that, I'm not really exercising. NLP reframe. I questioned, I asked, I'm curious, I wonder if you're already aware of the latest research in exercise that shows short bursts of exercise are just as effective as a long, extended, sweaty exertion of exercise. And she said, I've heard about that. So I was curious, what might you do in short bursts that move your body? I don't know what you might do. I don't know if you'll set an alarm and stretch once an hour at the office. I don't know if every time you make a phone call, you'll get up and walk around the desk. I don't know exactly what you might do to put more movement in your day, but I'll bet you know. Let me ask this. What are you doing with your feet when you brush your teeth? And she said, well, nothing. I said, I wonder if while you're brushing your teeth, if you could just march in place. Just march in place while you brush your teeth. And she said, well, you know what? I have a Sonic here. It has a 2-minute timer on it. And sure, while I'm brushing my teeth for 2 minutes, I could march in place. And I said, great. And if you could march in place while you're brushing your teeth, I wonder if there's any other time that you're just standing there doing nothing with your feet that you could shift your weight, or you could move, or you could dance. And she said, well, I have a Keurig. I have to wait for my coffee to pour in. I could march in place there. And she came up with all sorts of other ways, filling her water bottle. She also then started generating solutions. She realized that she could park farther away from her office. She realized that she could take the stairs more often. I asked, hey, where's the ladies' room in your office? And she said, well, I have one right next door to my office. And I said, I wonder, is there another one down the hall or any other place in the office? And she said, oh yeah, there's one all the way down the hall. And I was just curious if every time she had to go to the ladies' room, if she would use that other one instead and kind of sneak in a little free time for herself and get a little bit of a break from her desk all at the same time, plus get extra steps and exercise. It wasn't a full week before this client started imagining different ways that she could sneak in the exercise. She didn't sweat. She didn't have to change clothes. She didn't have to set aside extra time. She got a Fitbit and realized that she could increase her steps exponentially by just giving it some thought. And so she would walk farther to the bathroom. Eventually, she walked farther to work. She would get off at a bus stop a block away and then 2 blocks away. And she gradually built up her ability to exercise and enjoy it, or at least not hate it, by chunking it down into a small enough size. Anything can be accomplished if chunked down small enough. Number 7, the map is not the territory. That means there's a difference between belief and reality. If you have a map, it shows the terrain, it shows what's happening in the terrain, but even if there is a drawing of a mountain range, the map is not going to give you the same experience or sensory input as scaling the mountain range, right? So the map is not the territory, it's a perception of the territory. Well, that works in a variety of ways. Beliefs, this is the difference between belief and reality. A belief is a belief. A belief is not a fact. Although humans always act and behave around their beliefs as if they're fact. You know, beliefs are malleable. They're changeable. You know the story of when the whole world thought the earth was flat. People didn't take cruises until the Vikings sailed around the world and proved that theory to be wrong. Well, as soon as the Vikings came back safely, that belief changed just like that. They didn't believe the earth was flat anymore. They thought, okay, it's round. And Viking cruise lines occurred and people took vacations all over the world. Well, it may not have happened exactly like that, but you get the point. When the belief was the earth is flat, guess what? The earth was just as round then as it is now. Just because they believed a limiting thought didn't make it fact. So we want to work with our clients on their map of the world, their model of the world, and do a reality check to see if there's some variation that we can make to make the reality and the belief become congruent. Number 8, we are always communicating. We're always communicating, but we are also in all ways communicating. So that means that we are always giving off vibes. You know how this works. You've seen a friend or a family member walk up to you, and you can tell just as the way they're walking up to you, the look on their face, that something isn't right. They're not feeling well. Something just isn't right about them. You can tell by their posture, by their face. Now, it could be that that person is deep in thought about something and you interpret that as being sad or unhappy. When you question about it, they'll go, oh no, I was just thinking about a project I've got to do. Sorry, I'm doing fine. Everything's okay. I was just deep in thought. It was a miscommunication, but the communication was occurring, okay? They communicated something deep in thought. You interpreted it as sad or unhappy. Here's the thing. The meaning of the communication is in the response you get. So someone who is deep in thought, being thought to be sad, oh no, I'm just fine. I was just thinking about a project that I've got to do. And that makes a big change, does it not? But recognize that the response is the communication. I always laugh at comedy flicks or something like that where they have someone talking to someone in a foreign language and they're not understanding them, so the person who's trying to communicate the message just talks louder, hoping that will get the message across. It never works. It never works to just say the same thing over again and hope that there will be meaning. The meaning of the communication is in the response you get. So if you say something that is misunderstood, if it's misunderstood, don't say it in the same way or louder. Find a different way of saying it. Find a metaphor to get the point across, or realize that the method you used to communicate to this client didn't exactly work, or this person, or this spouse. You may be speaking different languages. There's a whole study of the love languages and other ways that we speak and how miscommunication can occur. Recognize that as we communicate, we are always communicating, but the meaning of the communication is in the response we get. So notice the response, realize that's excellent feedback for you to take the next step. Number 9, the one with the most flexibility always wins. If something isn't working, try something else. That's the reason to know a whole lot of techniques and ways to do hypnosis and coaching and NLP. You want a full toolkit so that you can indeed try something else. The one with the most flexibility always wins. Let's say that you've got a 300-pound pizza-holic. And he says the reason that he's always eating the pizza, it's in that same scenario. He runs downstairs and he grabs whatever's available. In his case, he doesn't even know that he's hungry until he's starving, and he runs down and the fast food joint is selling pizza slices, and he grabs a couple of pizza slices and goes back to work and eats them, and that's how he nourishes his body. Well, if he's inflexible about change, that's going to continue. We have to look at some ways to be flexible around that. And it might be back timing to planning. If he were to take an hour, 5 hours, whatever it takes on the weekend, to pre-plan meals and have something ready for those moments when hunger strikes and he's got to have something now, something healthy, something that will get him over the hump. If he plans that and provides for it, that will be a way that he doesn't have to go down to the convenience store to buy those slices of pizza. If he's flexible enough to make that change, to create a way to pre-plan, he will have success. But he's got to be flexible in the approach. If he does the same old thing he's always done, he's going to get the same old result he's always gotten. So we want to look for flexibility. We want to look at the planning stage. We want to look at what it is. You need to be flexible too. If a suggestion you make isn't working, don't keep hammering that technique or that suggestion at your client, hoping that you can beat it into their head. If something isn't working, be flexible enough to just let that go and move ahead. Here's a little secret. Most of the clients who come into our office have not read the rule book. They haven't taken a hypnosis course or an NLP course or a coaching course. They don't know the way it's supposed to happen. Some of the clients won't follow the rules of the very strict technique that you're running. Some of them are unique. I dare say they're all unique. But at any rate, if you keep hammering the same old technique at them over and over, hoping to get a better result, even if you stop down and say, hey, if you don't do it my way, we're not going to have results, you're not going to get the greatest results. If you notice that what you're doing isn't working, drop back. Try something else. Almost anything will give you a different result. That 300-pound pizza-holic, if he discovers that he can bring a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to tide him over until he can get some real food, if he discovers that having a A quarter cup of almonds will help get him over that hunger until he can actually get to someplace else. If he discovers that he can eat breakfast and then set an alarm for lunch and actually plan his day so that he is taking care of his body and puts himself in a priority category, all of those things can affect change. What we know is what he's doing now isn't working. We need some flexibility to make the change. Number 10, my favorite, my very favorite, there is no failure, only feedback. Here's an easy example. Let's say that you're doing progressive muscle relaxation with a client. That's easy. Everybody learns progressive muscle relaxation in NLP or probably coaching or hypnosis as well. Progressive muscle relaxation is just a way of helping your clients relax their body in muscle groups. So let's pretend that you have a client there in your recliner and their arms are out on the chair and they're kind of tensed, their fists are kind of tensed, and you're doing progressive muscle relaxation and everything's working just fine, and you're allowing the client to relax, their muscles are relaxing, their arms are relaxing, but you get there and you see that their fists are still tight. Rather than yell, "Relax those fists," although that might work, who knows. Rather than take that as what you're doing is wrong, take it as feedback that a little more patter is necessary, or maybe a direct suggestion for a change. You might instead say, "I wonder what might happen if you opened your hands out now, stretched your fingers out, and let them relax gently on the armrest, allowing your fingers to just float and relax, feel the blood rushing through your fingertips," etc., whatever pattern goes along with that. But that's feedback that they need a little more instruction. They need a little more help. They didn't read the manual ahead of time. We don't require them to read the manual. Everything is feedback. If the technique you're running with a client isn't working, even though it's worked on every other client you've ever seen, take that as feedback. It's not a failure. The technique's not a failure. You're not a failure. Every client is unique. Treat them as if they're unique. Treat them as if they're special. Recognize this is feedback that this technique doesn't work on this client, at least not in this way. I'm going to try something different. And if you try something different, almost anything else you try will give you a better result or a different result. It's feedback, not failure. People are so interesting. I see all of my clients as kind of a jigsaw puzzle, or they walk in with a jigsaw puzzle. They walk in with a box of pieces, of parts, and a picture on the top of what they want it to look like when they're done. And together, we set up a team effort. We take that box of things they want, and we take that picture, make sure that picture is grounded in reality, open up their box, put the pieces out on the table, spread them out, turn them all right side up, put in the corners, put in the sides, fill in the middle. We're working together to create that picture of what it is they want. It's important that they know what they want. It's important that they have that clear picture of what it is we're going for so that we can get to that point. As we think that each client is a puzzle and that we don't have to fix them, that they have the resources, that we're just going to help them in a very flexible and open manner discover those resources. We're on a mission together, maybe a mission from God to help make that change. We're working together. We're creating the hypnotic relationship. We're creating the dance. And I'm quite willing to lead the dance with my clients until they are empowered to go do their own dance, to lead their own dance. If you've learned the Elman induction, as an example, you know the eye catalepsy part. Relax your eyelids so much that they just won't work. And you might use a technique that says, feel them stuck shut, like locked shut. You might be something more permissive. Let them relax so much that they just want to stay closed. However you do it, you have to realize that it's the client who's doing it. You can't do it for them. You can't make it work. You can follow the feedback. If they open their eyes, you can say, great, now you've proven to yourself that you were always in control. Now let's try it this way, where you control the relaxation in your eyelids. You just drop back and you're flexible, and you give them a different set of directions. But if I do an eye catalepsy element, and with every client somewhere along the way, I'll drop this phrase, I can't do it for you. Only you can do it. I can't do it for you. Only you can do it. And that moves things along usually. Now, I want to turn our attention for a moment. We've done the presuppositions, and I hope that set you free and you're feeling a little bit better at getting some of that responsibility off your shoulders. But now I want to turn our attention to a technique I call the outcome intervention. In NLP training, I use this outcome specification exercise to help students learn to gather information, to conversationally move their client into the direction of resource. This outcome intervention actually takes a client through a series of conversational questioning, takes a client through the meta pattern. The meta pattern of change is associate into the problem, dissociate from the problem, associate into the solution, now paste the solution onto the problem and see the different result. So this list of questions will take the client through the meta pattern, and in simply asking the questions, you guide your client into a solution mindset. The other thing you get out of this is you get all of their limiting beliefs, you get their personal trance words, you get their motivation for change, and they come up with their own steps for how it would benefit them to make the change and the steps they plan to make. As you go through the outcome intervention, I call it an intervention because it's a standalone technique. This technique can work all by itself as a therapeutic intervention, or the way I use it in a very conversational method is I use it with every client, virtually every client who comes through the door, and every session, because we're talking about what change do you want to work through, what's stopping you, what resources do you have to make the change, and what steps are you going to take to get there. I'd like to show you this demo now, a demo that I did from another course where I really did a deep dive into the outcome intervention. We are looking for specifics. The first thing you need to know is what specifically do you want to change, and in what context is it important to make that change? I'm going to show you the demo with Susie that I did from another course, and then we'll talk about it in a moment. So a big round of applause for Susie. Susie, what change would you like to make here today?
I want to change, I want to release inner conflict so that I can make a decision as it relates to relocating my office.
Ah, where do you want to relocate your office to?
Same town, just a new office.
Okay. And what specifically will having that new office, Susie, do for you?
Oh, see, there's the conflict is, what do I stay in the office that I'm in or change to a new one?
Okay, so let's explore both.
Okay.
What will staying in your current office do for you?
Do for me. It will continue the flow of peace and the environment of peace and comfort and safety for my clients.
Good. Okay. And what will moving to a new office do for you?
Do for me.
Or your business, or, I mean,
Okay.
something that you're thinking about making the change. So what will making that change do for you?
It will be disruptive at first. That's not a positive thing. And actually my fear is that my clients will not feel the safety and the comfort. Will not be as harmonious of an environment for them.
So I'm curious, Susie, is that harmonious environment there in your office, is that produced by the ambiance of the office? Is it produced by the location? What produces that comfort?
It's the ambience of the office and the building itself. So it is in a home that's been converted into business suites, an older home, and the other potential offices available in the city where I live are actually more business structured, where this is much more relaxing because it's a home environment, I think. Wooden floors, so it's both my office and the ambiance.
So I got to go back and ask, Susie, which fits your style best?
The homey environment, definitely.
And so now that you tell me that, are you still considering the possibility of a move?
Yes, and it's economic in nature. That's what spurred it, an increase in the rent, an outrageous increase in the rent. So I feel kind of forced.
Yeah, now we're down to the reason for making the change. Okay.
Yes.
So let's look at that very business-like office you talked about, and I wonder what you could do to make it homey when they see your office. They walk in and there's a confusion technique. This isn't what I expected, but once they open your door, how can that change?
From the business to the homey. Right. Yeah, that's the ambiance that I would create. That's the energy that I would infuse.
And that opening the door, whether it's you or a receptionist who opens the door, just needs at that point to be cognizant, be aware that your client may have had a different or startling impression coming in. And so you want to, with whatever is on the outside of your door before they open it, and when they open it, with the smells or the greeting or whatever it is that you do, right? You want that to be there so we can instantly get rid of that old impression and give the new impression. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Now that you know that you can create that ambiance in the new place, how will you know when you have the ambiance? Because now you've saved money. Now we know what you're going for. Saving money, making sense, helping your business. All of those are good things, right?
Right.
And as you are making your new office in a different kind of almost disruptive environment, what can you bring to it, Susie, that will bring your personality to the room that you have inside of this building?
Everything that's there now. It's just a transference of the energy that I hold and exude, and then the furnishings and the lighting and the ambiance and the smells and the whole 9 yards.
So let's say you move to that new office. How many clients would have to come in and feel comfortable before you'd know that you have accomplished what you want, is with a peaceful ambiance?
Oh, just one. Just me one. Yeah,
just one. The first one, right? I wonder if even a good friend could come over and go, oh, yeah, Susie, this is great. Or would it have to be a client?
No, a good friend could as well. Plus, I would have a sense. Once it's done, I would know.
So you would know.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. And so this ambiance must be created then, I'm guessing, for you, for your clients, for the UPS guy when he walks in.
Right.
Everybody. Okay. How will this affect other aspects or people in your life when you move to this new location and create the ambiance that you want? How will this affect anything else in your life?
Zoom, being conflict free. And plus, in terms of my business, is it opens up more opportunities to present workshops, because in that office space, it's a potential possibility. I have the options of conference rooms that come with it. So there's a positive there. In terms of the rest of the areas of my life, I'm not sure that would change. It would be more of a maintaining.
Right. Okay.
Was it perfection of it?
But let's hone in really on your business, because I heard you say, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I heard you say that you're going to be saving money.
Yes.
And that you're opening up more possibilities, so you might be getting more money. So how will that affect the rest of your business when you make this move?
Oh, well, it will grow. Yeah, and that's a really good thing.
Is that a good thing, or do you like it small?
No. That's a fantastic thing.
Okay, good. So what stops you from just going ahead and making that move?
Right. That's the greatest question in the world. What's the fear? Why am I dragging my feet? It's the fear of change, I think.
And Go ahead, tell me about that fear of change.
I love the office that I'm in right now. I mean, I walked in when I saw it when it was empty 2 years ago, and I walked in and I knew it was mine. And the offices that I've looked at now, or recently trying to find a new place, I don't have that same feeling. So that's kind of a fear.
But it sounds to me, Susie, as if you were already in the direction of making the move. You've taken the steps, you've looked at places, they just don't feel right yet. And you're just looking around until you find the one that feels right.
Yeah.
What resources do you have to find that just right place?
In terms of looking, exploring, all resources. I mean, everyone I know and talk to, I open up and let them know that I'm in the process. I mean, you right down to the gal who's going to cut my hair this afternoon, people who are plugged into the community. And of course, Craigslist, and then, you know, postings online and driving around, you see signs.
Have you asked a realtor?
I'm working with one.
Okay, all right. So you've got all the resources and you don't need any other resources to find your spot.
I don't think so. I don't imagine that I've left a resource untapped.
So let's just jump ahead to you finding this place let's find a place just for a moment, Susie, that is not quite perfect, but you can work with it. The positives are great enough that you can work with it.
That's the office that I have available to me right now.
Okay, so you have some place that's available now. Let's pretend for a moment, okay? Because you may find the perfect place between now and then all the angst is gone, right?
Right.
That isn't a problem. But let's pretend for a moment that you're choosing that spot.
Okay.
Okay. And now you're going to move into it.
Okay.
The first step for creating your ambiance in this spot, in this specific spot that we're talking about.
My very first step is to go in and do an energetic clearing in that office space.
Yes.
And then start moving my stuff in and setting it up until it feels everything's in the right position for the flow. And
what might you do for that disconnect, the disconnect of the business office and the comfortable, peaceful environment? What might you do on the door or in the hallway? I'm not sure how it's set up. I'm not sure what you'll do. Could you put a sign up front? What could you do?
Externally in the hallway, all the businesses for continuity purposes have the same looking placard and the same numbers. So externally, I know, I have a table that I could put a candle out there and, you know, an electronic candle, battery operated. And
outside the door, you could do that outside.
Yeah, right outside. Yeah, absolutely. That's a brilliant idea.
And so it is a brilliant idea, Susie. I'm glad you came up with it. And it's right outside. So as the client is walking down the hallway, they can see, that's my special place.
Yeah.
And it would be anticipating as they get off the elevator or whatever. There's a spot. There's my place. Is that right?
Yeah, and they would stand out from the other offices, the continuity in that hallway. It would be different.
How about that? How does
that feels fabulous.
Now let's say that you make the choice of having this spot. Do you feel better about it already?
Yeah, I do.
What did we do, Susie?
Helped me see with clarity that the options available to me aren't as limiting as I thought they were, and eased the fear of taking that step and claiming that office space.
That's pretty cool. We haven't done formal hypnosis yet.
Right.
Or have we?
Right.
Or have we? The outcome intervention. Now, I've been in touch with Susie since we did that demo, and she is in her new building and she is happy as a clam. And she does have her little table with a candle on it, and it's all working perfectly because she came to some understandings about who really creates the atmosphere. But let's look at that for a moment. Let's look at it in terms of the presuppositions. One, everyone is working perfectly. The angst that Susie was feeling was a perfect signal to her that she needed clarity. We create our own experience. She created that experience of angst. She had a need to move. She wanted such a homey experience, and she gave all the hominess to the environment she was in. As we redirected that to she creates that ambiance, and that ambiance will go with her wherever she is, it relaxed a little bit. Behind every behavior is a positive intent. Now, I'm not sure what her positive intent was in creating the angst, but I wonder if it could have been, if I can't find a place, if I can't find someplace just this nice, then I can just suck it up and stay here and pay more. Well, that's not what she wanted, so that's where the angst occurred. That's where we solved the problem. Everyone makes the best choice available to them at the time. Well, thinking of the ways to make that better space homey gave her the flexibility to open her eyes to the advantages to moving to this different space. Bigger, a conference room for classes. And she could create the ambiance that she wanted. So that worked out for her. Everybody makes the best choice they can make at the time. Thinking of ways to make her space better, warm, gave her a good choice. People have all the resources they need. She already had the resources that she needed to create the ambiance she wanted. As soon as she discovered that it was her vibe, her decor, her persona that created it, and not the space itself, as soon as she owned her responsibility in creating her environment, she was able to transfer that to a new space and still create it herself. Anything is accomplished if broken down into small enough chunks. Well, she reached clarity, Susie did, with the little table with a candle on it that she could put outside to say, I'm different. I'm unique. You're coming to a special place. What a great solution that was for her. And I didn't come up with it. I couldn't have known about it. She knew it. Asking the right questions got her to that solution state. The map is not the territory. Her office location, its warm, homey environment is the map that she wanted. The reality is something she had the power to create and the ability to create. As a matter of fact, she had created it before. She had an example to go by. We're always communicating. Well, her important point was to communicate as they walked down this long, stark business hallway that your safe place is here. Imagine, NLP talks a lot about anchoring. Imagine the anchor it sets up to see that little table and candle out there. You walk off the elevator and you go, that's my safe place. And you start anticipating the safety and the wonder of being in that space. That's a great use of hypnosis, is it not? And a great use of communication. The one with the most flexibility wins. Well, as soon as Susie discovered that she can produce her own path, well, okay, that's great. Let's do that. Let's move in that direction. As long as she knew there was a better space that could be warmed up, she was able to create it. There is no failure, only feedback. I don't know if you noticed a couple of times I went down a path that wasn't exactly what Susie wanted. She corrected me. I just step up and say, you know, I don't know for sure. This is your life. Let's hear your example on that. Or if there's an objection, oh, that's great. Let's go down that path and see what we can discover there. It's all a discovery process. It's information gathering. And all along the way, as we got to the very end and I did the truncated formal hypnosis process, I simply took her words, her desires, her plan for action, and fed it back to her. That solidifies the process. And you can use that in wide awake hypnosis. You can do it with a formal hypnosis process. In a coaching model, you can use this outcome intervention and never do hypnosis, because hypnosis is occurring all along the way. Remember, we're always in a trance state. We were in one trance state or another at all times. When you are with your spouse, you're in a trance state. When you're with your children, you're in a different trance state. When you're with your girlfriends or buddies at the bar, you're in an entirely different trance state. And you go in and out of those trance states very naturally and normally all day long. Nobody has to remind you or tell you. You're creating your own experience. So why not discover how to create the experience you really want? One very simple plan for you to take into each session, a simple set of realizations that it's not all on your shoulders. This is a team effort, and the client has the solution. You don't have to know how to play baseball to coach a client into working better on the baseball field. You don't have to. I worked with a bowling team at a high school recently. I don't have to know the ins and outs of bowling. I have to help them know how to create their pictures in their mind, their muscle memory to improve their scores. And they did quite well in regionals, I might add, because they imagined the best. I gave you a simple technique of understanding your clients going in, and a simple technique for information gathering, getting all the information you need to create your pattern, to create your script, and to have success with any solution or any problem that comes into your office. You know, I'll be very happy to provide you, by the way, with those outcome questions. I don't think I provided that here, but I'll give you those outcome questions, the 7 outcome intervention questions. It's an exercise I use in class. I'll be happy to share that with you. And as a matter of fact, I have an entire class that I will also forward to you that's got a little bit more NLP information in it about visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory, and how to use that and keep track of it, and motivational strategies for change. That's all great NLP work. And there's another demo in that class, actually, of the outcome intervention, so you can really see how that works. I'd love for you to be able to take some of that responsibility off of your shoulders, go in as a team player, and help bring out the best in your client. That's your job. Your job is not to install a new personality. Your job is to help them get the best out of their personality. If you would like that demo, and if you would like those outcome intervention questions, just send me an email, Karen@KarenHand.com, and say that you want the outcome intervention. And earlier I also said that you could ask for the handout if you didn't get that. That is the reminder handout. And this is the outcome intervention handout and demo, and I'll send it to you. For a deeper dive into NLP, you can certainly check out Transformations by Richard Bandler. For a deeper dive into the language patterns, you can do Structure of Magic by Richard Bandler and John Grinder. It's a complicated look. This is an easier approach to the language patterns, but you can get a lot more if you want to go deeper. Everybody's a different learner. So if you really like to get the meat of everything, do more reading. If you really want to know how to hit it and get it and make these techniques work for you, I do teach NLP and hypnosis, and I am available for NLP training, for hypnosis training, for coaching, for mentoring, and for a variety of workshops. I hope that you've piqued your interest now and you will expand your toolkit. And I'm available to you. Karen@KarenHand.com or 312-315-2100. I take text, calls, or email. Being a facilitator is a wonderful career. It's a wonderful profession. It never gets boring because every single person who walks into our office is unique. I get to discover how they model their world. It's just fascinating how people put their life together and how we can help them unpack the problems and go forward with solutions. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I look forward to hearing from you. I'm Karen Hand. Have a great day.